Hello?
Hey JW, it's Mark with Living Water. How you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Hey, I got a project I need your help with. I was wondering if you can meet me out there and help me solve this problem, man. We have to hide this seam.
I'm on my way.
What's up, buddy? Good morning, J-Dub. Man, how you doing, bro? How are ya?
Good, brother. How you doing, man?
Welcome to my job.
Let's go check it out.
Let's go.
Well, Mark, the problem here is we have an issue with the seam, and it all has to do with manipulation.
You think you can help me out? Fix this bad boy?
Well, Mark, let's go ahead and check it out.
What do you think we can do about this, JW?
Well, see, if you look right here, this whole area, you don't see any imperfections. And then when you come to the seam line, you're seeing these dark
Yeah, I can see that.
And a little bit of mohawking, but mainly the dark spots, to me, they show like there's got to be a gap or something in the turf, but let's check it out real quick. Oh yeah, there's a culprit, Mark.
Wow. That's big time, huh?
Yeah, that's a little bit bigger, but a lot of times, you know, whenever you seam tape and glue and the compression's not on for a good amount of time, the heat could actually pull this apart and it'll slide on the actual the seam tape itself.
So there was no seam tape or glue even used in this one?
Oh no, there's seam tape and glue. They did a good job seam tape and glue it because it's not coming up.
Oh, okay, got it.
And also we go down through here and you can see the gap is. Yeah, I would say that would make it a little visible.
Yep, that's a big gap right there.
That's about an inch and a quarter.
Easy.
And also, when they're putting it together, a lot of times they'll use big nail. Yep, there's one right there. The big nails, the nail head itself, will also cause pock marks. So it looks like this nail head was placed on the edge and got pulled out. So you definitely don't want to use any embeds, nails, or staples on the seam line because it'll just cause manipulation.
If this was installed correctly and it installed without the super seamer, would these two pieces of turf need to be touching?
Yes.
So this is part of the problem right here because it's an inch apart, right?
Yeah, the number one problem here is they have a large gap between the seam. So if the synthetic turf is manufactured 3/8 gauge on the backing, the stitch rows, then that means this seam has to maintain 3/8 from center to center of stitch row from section 1 to section 2.
That's what you were showing us in the classroom, right?
Yeah, and so right now they've got about an inch and a quarter.
JW, why can't we just take out this piece and leave this piece and marry up the new piece to this existing piece?
That's a great question. How long has this been down?
It's been down for about 3 months.
Well, the problem with this is it's like if you bought 2 pairs of white tennis shoes and the same pair of tennis shoe, and you went out and wore one pair of tennis shoes one day and then put them up next to the brand new one, you're going to see a difference of wear.
Yeah.
And I see it every time. Even if it's the same dye-a-lot, they'll wait a week or 2 weeks and they'll put it in and you'll see a total different color.
Nice.
So I don't recommend that.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. We got our work cut out for us, don't we?
Well, you're challenging me in my talents today.
You're up for it though. All right, let's rip it up. Let's go. JW, what is wrong with this install here?
Well, as suspected, I could see that they used large nails to stitch the seam, and along with the 1 inch gap that they had, It's just a disaster for a visible seam. What happens is these large nails, the heads are too large and they create pock marks in the turf. So whenever you're trying to stitch or even put it in the middle of the field, you always have to clear the fibers of the nail head.
Okay.
So when you're trying to stitch a seam, you're so close to the edge that this spreads the fibers because it's not small enough to get between the stitch rows.
That makes a lot of sense.
And so what it does on this side, it creates a pock mark, and you can see what has done here.
So what are we gonna do to fix this?
Well, we're gonna seam tape and glue it. You just cannot manipulate the fibers. You have to let the seam tape and glue do the work so that you can put section 1 and section 2 down without even touching it, like it just came off the roll right from the factory without manipulation.
Are we also gonna use the super seam?
Yes, we're gonna integrate this since it's in front of the street. So
Nice.
no one will be able to see the mohawk, so we don't roll the dice on it.
Then it'll look perfect when we're done, right?
Yeah, it'll be invisible.
Sweet. Come on, man, let's do this. JW, what are pock marks?
Oh, pock marks are from using too large of a nail, which has a large nail head. And what happens is these nail heads will go into the turf and spread the fibers open and leave these dark marks. So what I recommend is using a smaller nail head like this one. Oh, let's go golfing.
First tee, let's go. So, what nails do we want to use to secure the edges around the border?
That's a good question because we talk about pock marks and the edges are just as important. And so the nail heads could create pock marks around the edges, and a lot of times you'll go by installations, you'll see all these looks like little upholstery pillow, buttons on there.
Yeah.
And that's pock marks. And so what happens is, if your compaction's really well, like 80% plus, then I recommend you could stagger them. You could go a 5 and a 3.5 inch, 5, 3.5 inch, so that you could, less chance of the pock marks.
Okay, so the more 3-inch better. If we have to use these on the edge, it's okay.
I would secure them. I would secure commercial properties. You definitely want to be able to either have a nailer board or a nail that's going to be secure, that's not going to be able to pull up. But putting a lot of large nails with the large heads in does create pock marks if the fibers are not clear. So it's really crucial for them to take their time, and once they put the nail in, they actually will spread the fibers and so they could hide that pock mark.
So what you're saying is on that 3-inch nail in the middle of the turf area, it's always best to use the 3-inch if needed, and not use the 5.
Yes, if the compaction's really well. And sometimes in like Vegas and Phoenix, where it's really hot, you'll start getting micro wrinkles out in the field, and before you ballast it with infill to weight it down to prevent the wrinkles from coming. And sometimes I recommend throwing a bunch of 3.5 inches in the middle so that it'll prevent that before you do have to put the infill in.
Nice. All right, I appreciate it.
Let's do it.
Let's go. You ready to rock and roll?
That's the Super Seam Plastiflex. Turn it around the other way. All right, 1, 2, 3.
Whoa, yeah, dude, it's like Christmas. What's up, JW? Thank you for this, man. I love this. This is awesome, JW. Whoa, this is so cool. Yeah. Santa came early this year.
All right, let's do this. You want to make at least 3 foot to have a nice table for this to go on. So you want to put the tool on the stitch row itself. See back here? And then when it's on the stitch row, these view slots will actually keep you in line so that you're straight before you mark it. Whenever you're in an area like Las Vegas or Phoenix or some places that's really hot, you gotta understand, you gotta stretch the turf. Whatever you don't stretch out will come back and bite you in the butt as a wrinkle tomorrow, the next day, whatever the case may be. So you want to be able to get this section, even though it's not that large, you want to be able to stretch it out. I always recommend having guys on the end of the roll, and then what happens is as they're pulling, I'm going to kick to get this tight. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Now what I'm doing here is I'm putting temporaries. These are only temporaries. If I put one nail and it's hot out, the turf it'll move it. Okay? 2 nails, if it's this way, maybe not. It'll definitely move it this way, right? But if you put 3 nails, there's no way that turf's gonna move. Am I right?
That's just temporarily holding it.
Temporary. This is called the JW triangle method. Look how fast we put this in. Seriously, it's all teamwork, man.